Carolina, or North Carolina. He walked into a cookout wearing a Trump shirt, and the people threw ketchup at him. He said it was a hate crime. It's not. A hate crime is against a minority and people who are different, and hate crime is what happened to the shop in Wyckoff, to Jerry's family, and to all the black people who were being killed. That was not a hate crime. And so I just want to say we need to be the change that we want. We are the future.
All right, we have to wrap this up. But first, we're going to hear from Allison Cohen, because we really do need to end this on a note of hope and everything. And thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison. Let me see what I can do here. There we go. Is that good? So, I do want to share my little story that I experienced here in Wyckoff. Back in 2001, on 9/11, like the rest of the world, I was in a complete state of shock. And I waited with my fellow Wyckoff moms outside Sycamore School for our children to come out. And we were all in a state of shock. We were desperate in our desire to figure out what we were going to tell our children and how we were going to handle this. And as I waited there with my fellow Wyckoff moms, one of them said, "This is what we get for supporting Israel. Damn Jews." And a number of other moms agreed with her, and they started piping in. Now, all of a sudden, all these fingers were pointing to me, and moms were saying, "She's Jewish, be quiet, stop, she's Jewish." And those of you that know me know that I'm rarely at a loss for words. I couldn't speak. Much like Aisha was saying before, I couldn't speak. And I was ever so grateful for the mom who stood up and said, "I'm not Jewish, and this is despicable, and you all need to shut up." I have never been more grateful for somebody saying such a short amount of words in my life. And that is our responsibility. That is our responsibility. We need to be that person. For all of these students who just expressed their experiences, for the families in town who have experienced racism, it is up to us to do that. Now, I do not come by this in a roundabout way. My dad was a civil rights worker in the 1960s. He marched with Medgar Evers. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. He rode the bus down south and registered African American voters. He put his life on the line. I'm not asking everybody to risk their lives, but you know what? We need to take the stand. We need to be the voice. We need to educate ourselves, really educate ourselves. As the child of a civil rights worker, even I didn't know until college about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. 90% of white America had no idea that even occurred. Another thing that people don't know occurred after the 13th Amendment was passed is that a law was put into place to appease the southern states, the former slave owners. And what that law stated was that there are different laws for black people than there are for white people. For example, if a black person was out of work, that was against the law, and they could be arrested. If a black pastor, didn't have express permission from the chief of police, he was not allowed to preach to his congregation and could be arrested. Now, even worse was that once arrested, people were allowed to pay the state. White former slave owners were allowed to pay the state to have these people work for them, basically becoming slaves all over again. How many of you knew that law existed? I didn't know till college, and I was the daughter of a civil rights worker. That law existed until the mid-1940s. That's horrifying. So when we say we need to educate ourselves, and then we need to take the stand, and we need to be the voices for the people whose voices cannot be heard. And that is really important. In keeping with wanting to say, we go from here, what happens now? This cannot end after we leave here today. Justin read the letter from Lee Pelton that said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are we going to do? We need to take this as the impetus to move forward and educate ourselves and stand up for those who are voiceless. Again, as I said, my dad marched with Dr. Martin Luther King, and a way that people found to bind themselves together and find their commonality was through music. And there was an anthem, and I urge you all, some of you may be too young to know it, some of you are as old as I am and do. I urge you all to sing along. It's not difficult, I promise. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. Let me hear you sing with me. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. I want everybody to sing along with me. You ready? Here we go now. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Thank you all for being here. Let's take our next steps going forward to make sure that hate has no home here.
Awesome job, Al. Thank you. I expected that.